WRHU.
Radio Hofstra University.
For 88.7 FM WRHU, I'm Max Sacco as we continue our Alumni of the Week series, this week joined by Spring 2006 graduate Brandon Costa. Brandon, thank you very much for joining us today.
Max, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it. Nice to talk to you.
So first question, could you take us through what you did at RHU and then what you're doing in your professional career right now?
Sure. Real quickly, like you mentioned, I was a graduate 2006, so I entered the station fortunate enough to be in the fall training class in my freshman year of 2002 right off the bat, so I got really lucky with that. I was dove right in for sports, was assistant sports director for a very brief period in 2003. I did a lot of studio shows, the locker room, on-air stuff. I was fortunate to do play-by-play for the men's lacrosse team in the spring of 2006, which is the year where they just barely missed making it to the Final Four. I did change my major along the way. So I went in as a broadcast journalism major, but changed to secondary education in 2004. So entering junior year, still managed to finish in the 4 years. So my journey through RHU, while very fulfilling and still critical to what I do, because I am fortunate enough to work in the sports media industry now, was a little messy at times, but I've always kind of found a little value in that. I mean, I ultimately didn't become a teacher, so you could look at going and getting the teaching degree as a quote unquote derailment or a waste or whatever. But that was something that I really needed to figure out at that age. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with my life. And I think that's an important thing for young people to keep in their mind as they're figuring out what they want their future to look like. I'm a big proponent of finding at the age of high school and college what you don't like doing, like rule stuff out, as opposed to chasing this all perfect dream job that you think you have figured out. And most people might not even have that at that age. So I always encourage young people to keep an open mind, try things that you normally wouldn't consider. And then if you rule it out, great. You know you don't want to do that for a living. So point being, I did change my major, but my first job out of college was at Major League Baseball at MLB.com. I got the hook up through Pete McCarthy, who you also spoke with on this series and graduated side by side with in 2006. He started there a little bit before me, and he got me in the door, which was nice. Worked there for a few summers doing the overnights, game nights and everything. Also worked at a local newspaper, the Asbury Park Press, down in my home down the Jersey Shore. And then I started working full-time finally at a place after juggling as many or 3 or 4 different jobs at a time, all of which were part-time, working at the company that I'm at now, which is Sports Video Group. I started there in 2011, so I've been there for about a little over 9 years now. I'm their director of digital. We are a trade association for people who work behind the scenes in sports television. So it's very much a covering the coverage. Fans are not our target audience. If you worked at NBC Sports as a director, a producer, or an operations person and wanted to know how and with what technology Fox Sports was producing the Super Bowl, you would learn that through us, through our website, sportsvideo.org, where we editorially cover the industry throughout the year. And we host physical and now mostly virtual events about specific technology topics or for specific communities. So it's very much behind the scenes focused, but it's a fascinating way to kind of stay involved in the sports media world at a pretty fascinating time where technology is, as pervasive as it's ever been. So a little bit of a ping pong journey along the way, but still to this day can't thank or appreciate where I've gotten to without the time that I spent at RHU.
You walked right into my next question here with your time at RHU. I think everyone always wants to know, you hear a lot of people come to Hofstra every year and then even more select few make that jump to go to radio. Could you take me through why you came to Hofstra and then eventually decided to go to WRHU as well?
Oh, sure. I mean, it sounds a little shill-tastic here, but WRHU was why I wanted to go to Hofstra. I visited the campus pretty early on. It was one of the first schools that I looked at because I had heard a decent amount about the station and about the broadcast school early on. And one of the things that immediately gravitated towards me, and you hear this, and it's a cliche, and I kind of go like, bah, but they give you that everyone always tells you when you're hunting for school, it's like, oh, you'll feel it when you get on the campus. You'll just feel it. You'll feel at home. And I don't know if I necessarily felt that, but I did notice immediately that I felt like even within the School of Communications, there was this feeling, almost this familial feeling. Like it felt like a family atmosphere immediately even when I was at events like Prospective Students Day or Accepted Students Day, when I hadn't even made the full commitment. You'd see someone like Ed Ingles speak in front of the room and you just go, man, I want to be a part of this. And I think from a practicality standpoint, it also it gave me the opportunity to earn the right to participate in the station immediately. And not most schools allow you to do that, at least not at the time. I had also been looking at schools like Penn State on the bigger side and a school like Rowan on the smaller side, which is located down in southern Jersey. Both fantastic schools, but Penn State did feel a little too big. And Rowan maybe felt a little too small, and Hofstra kind of fit right in that sweet spot where it also allowed me to get involved immediately, as opposed to sitting around and waiting till junior year or having to do a lot of behind the scenes things in order to earn that first time on the air. WRHU both felt great when I was there. The resources were stunning when you walked through the studios for the first time, even though they'd probably be adorable compared to what you guys are working with now, which is fantastic. It just presented the opportunity to earn immediate opportunities, if that makes sense, which is why it was a good thing I got into that fall training class, because if I didn't, I went to Hofstra for nothing, because WRHU is why I went there.
Hey, yeah, RHU brings a lot of people there. You're definitely not the first one to say that answer for sure. But now, a bit more on your RHU side. RHU teaches you a lot of things, obviously about tech and life, and I think everything. It has some asset it teaches you. What would you say are maybe the 2 or 3 biggest things RHU prepared you for when you made the jump to your professional career?
Sure. I mean, I think working with Ed and working with Bruce and working with your fellow WRHU sports staff members and also staff members in other departments, you learn how to really communicate in more of a blocking and tackling kind of way. I'm not talking about just being able to like develop friendships and develop relationships, which is critical to this and any industry really. But that ability to effectively communicate, plan, and organize a show, a team, a broadcast, a department. Like I said, my time as assistant sports director was pretty short-lived, but that need to have to learn and use some of those skills that probably at that age I had never really had to do before. The logistical blocking and tackling stuff, learning how important that is to effectively and respectively communicate with other people who are maybe trying to accomplish things that may be different than yours, counterintuitive yours. You might be asking them to preempt a show for a sports broadcast that they've been looking forward to all week, or that they had been booked a special guest for. And you have to have that respectful balance to be able to work with someone else who you need to appreciate that what they're doing is just as important and just as valuable as you are. So I think that ability to work with other personalities, both above, equal, and well, no one's really below. I'm not gonna say below you, but people who work for you in that given moment, I think was really, really, really important. From a content perspective, I think it really taught me the value of finding and identifying your target audience, especially if that's a niche audience, and super serving it with your coverage and your programming. Back when I was in college, and this makes me sound like an old man, but like social media wasn't a thing yet. Like the Facebook came out while I was in school. So the idea of digital media serving hyper-focused audiences was either non-existent or in its very, very early infancy. And I think when you go to school to become a broadcaster, everyone's heads are filled with these, I'm going to do so-and-so covering the Yankees, and I'm going to have opinions on the Giants and the Jets, and it's going to be all this big picture stuff. WRHU, while offering opportunities to do very cool things in the pro level, allowed you to look at Hofstra athletics, whether that's as an entire entity or a specific team, be it football, men's basketball, men's lacrosse, hyper-focus. And guys do a fantastic job of this now by assigning beats to specific members of the sports staff, not something that we did necessarily as formally as you guys do now when I was there. It allows you to hyper-focus on a specific topic and really super serve that audience, regardless of how big or small that audience is. And I think that's something that's really, really valuable in a media world today, that when you try to be everything to everyone, you almost don't ping on the radar at all. You need to treat whatever your beat is like it's the biggest thing in the world, because you're for your audience. It is. And I think that's a really, really valuable thing that has helped me now in this trade association type world. It'd be very easy to get derailed and write stories for fans, write stories that'll garner clicks, when really our main objective is to serve our target audience. And that's the people who are executives and behind the scenes roles in sports television and sports media. And you don't take your eye off that ball. And I think at its core, I learned that covering Hofstra Sports for the first time while as a part of the WRHU sports staff.
I definitely agree with everything you just said. And as a beat reporter yourself, I agree. There's nothing more important than making sure your audience gets the news that week of whatever your team was. But
right.
Brandon, the big final question now, and I think it's something everyone kind of wants to hear, is you were a long-term member. You were at the station from a freshman to a senior. What is the best piece of advice you have for somebody who's maybe just getting in the station or they're still trying to find their footing so they could really start to move up and make a mark at WRHU Sports and get their name out there?
Look, I mean, it's a great question. I mean, if you're just getting started, it's a really, really exciting time for you. And it can also be a little scary, especially considering how freaking weird this first year is for you. It's so different than literally any freshman has ever faced entering this circumstance when you consider the circumstances that we're facing now in this COVID-19 world. So I empathize with you dramatically. So take any bit of advice from an old man like me with a grain of salt, knowing that you're going through a very different circumstance than I was when I came in. But I think my ultimate North Star goal would be leave this place better than you found it. If that is a guiding principle for you across everything that you do, I feel like a lot of everything else you want to or hope to accomplish will fall into place alongside of that. WRHU is one of those places that's designed spectacularly by management and by its legacy for you to come in and take advantage of as many opportunities as you want or as you are capable of taking advantage of. Soak up every opportunity. That's what a lot of people will tell you. And it's true, but you're not a parasite either. You're not here to just take and leave. Give back, volunteer, honor your commitments to serve the station outside of sports, especially. Support your colleagues, support each other, be a valuable teammate. Sometimes you have to learn and recognize the difference between when it's your time to shine and when it's time to help someone else in their moment to shine. Notice that, whether that's sports or someone else in a different department. I'd also say learn how every other aspect of the station works. You don't have to go down into the nitty gritty, but don't get caught in a silo of just what you like and what you do. The media world outside of this is very interconnected. And at least having an understanding of an appreciation of how the entire ecosystem works will be to your benefit ultimately. As that all comes back to, there's a deep legacy here. You're talking to a lot of fantastic alumni, so you're doing a really, really good job at this. There's an ecosystem here of not just a legacy of alumni and people who have come before you at WRHU and WRHU Sports. But I think the other part that gets lost sometimes is there's also many generations of talented young men and women who will come after you. I know it sounds like you're the new kid on the block because you're a freshman or it's your first time. Maybe you're a junior and you're a transfer, whatever it may be. There will come a time where you will have to pass that baton on to someone else. And you want to be proud of that baton that you pass off to them. And then also leave it in your heart and your mind to be proud of them when they take that baton from you and run faster than you did with it. Because that should be the goal of all of this, right? You guys are doing so much more cool stuff that now than when I was there. And I'm sure someone who was 20 years older than me would have said the same thing about me when I was there. And damn it, I hope 20 years from now, they're doing cooler stuff than you guys are doing now. And if you can keep that in the back of your mind, be a good citizen, volunteer, give back, and be a part of this organization. And really, this should apply to really anywhere you work. If you leave someplace better than you found it, people will remember you fondly, and you will be more likely, in my humble opinion, to find success.
Leave it better than you found it. That's a new piece of advice we haven't heard yet. We've had a lot of these alumni come through, but Brandon, You left us with a new piece to leave on. And I think that's the perfect way to go out here. Once again, everyone, Spring 06 graduate, Brandon Costa, thank you for coming on as the Alum of the Week.
Max, keep up the great job. Thanks so much, man. Really appreciate the time.